Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Copilot Carnival. I'm here, my name's Devin Knight. I'm here with Brian Knight.
Hey there.
And we're excited. We're going to be doing a series of sessions with you over the next 2 weeks, Tuesday through Thursday, 1 o'clock Eastern time each day. Starting today with our first session that's all around prompting, right, Brian?
Yeah, it's about taking you from, everybody's probably prompted at this point,
Right.
But how do we make those prompts a little more elegant and get better responses out of your AI engine of choice?
Yeah. So just to give you a little preview of what the next 2 weeks is going to look like, let's look at my screen here for just a moment. And I want to show you, in case you are interested in our upcoming sessions, maybe there's some of these sessions that interest you more than others, but today is going to be our Prompt Like a Pro with M365 Copilot. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at the researcher and analyst agent. Then moving on to Thursday, we're going to have a build an IT help desk Copilot agent. So you're going to learn how to build some agents. We're also going to talk a little bit more about the administration, secure, and govern M365 Copilot. That's next week. And then following that, we'll be building our first Copilot Studio agent. And then we'll wrap up with the Microsoft Teach module. So the Teach module, in case that's something new to you, that's something that's specific to educators or folks that are in the education space, whether it be K-12 or higher ed. And we're going to be showing you there's some specific AI tools that are available just for them.
It's pretty amazing.
It is.
Before we go farther also, we had a question from the audience, and that was about, hey, where can I find these files? Oh, whoop, that is a different question. Where can I find these files? And you'll find those on a slide we have up in a moment. It'll be aka.ms/Copilot Carnival. It's also in the description of the video as well.
Yeah, and so for today, and I'll even have, by the way, when we're showing any kind of PowerPoint or slides today, you can look in the top right-hand corner of the slides, and you'll also find where you can download them as well. So if we look at my machine right now, just a quick intro slide here, but this is going to be our Prompt Like a Pro session. You'll notice in the top right-hand corner there is where you can also find the download link. There's files that Brian and I, have kind of accumulated over time. This is a roadshow that we did in person at a bunch of different Microsoft sites across the country. And so we wanted to bring it to you virtually here as well for those that couldn't make it.
The cool thing is there's tons of extra material out there inside this file. You'll find slides, tons of demos, as well as some ideas that other cities have come up with along the way of how they want to use agents and different in their education sector all around the world.
Yeah, let me give you a peek at what that looks like. So when you look at the files, I'll open them up in my web browser here as well. You'll find that there are several sections. What Brian was actually mentioning just a moment ago is you'll see there are city names in here for a bunch of different cities that Brian and I did this roadshow in. And those are, like he mentioned, some ideation that we came up with those various groups. And so, if you're kind of trying to think through different agent ideas that might be useful for yourself, you can kind of peek at those and see if maybe it gives you some ideas.
Yeah, and today's slides are going to be in the main room folder. You'll see that up top. And then we're going to be underneath the main room. You'll see a slide deck. I think it's called the webinar slide deck. We kind of condensed this down to just under an hour for what would only be an hour and a half.
Right.
This was a half-a-day event that we're basically compressing into this also. So each of these sessions, you want to make bite-sized chunks. Most of them might be 15 minutes to 20 minutes. Today will be a little bit longer because we're kind of giving the groundwork for prompting and why we're doing what we're doing.
And it's worth mentioning too, if you have some other topics that you see that we're going to be covering over the next 2 weeks, you don't necessarily have to have attended all the previous ones to attend Wednesdays or Thursdays. So you can jump in on any one of them individually, and there's not necessarily buildup that you have to have gone through beforehand. So it would help, but not necessary.
So let's begin.
All right, let's do it. So what our plan is to start off with is as Brian mentioned, we do make some assumptions that you have probably written a prompt before, but we want to make you better at it. And we want to make it so that you hopefully have a better understanding of what you're doing when you're working with inside of AI tools like Copilot, like a few others. So I have a few slides here that we'll look at here. Let's hop over to my machine. As we get started, I do want to start with a little vocabulary to make sure we're all on the same base, the base knowledge of what we're going to be seeing as we're working with inside of tools like Copilot. The first term here that's really important to understand is grounding. And you can think of grounding as essentially as where Copilot or where various AI tools get their information from. So generally when you're working with AI tools, they're grounded in the web, like they're finding information or data found in the web. But when you're working with Copilot, you can do that, of course, but when you have the paid version of Copilot, it can also be grounded within inside of Microsoft's ecosystem, meaning it can connect into your emails and your Teams chats and your OneDrive and your SharePoint. So there's additional benefits that you get from using Microsoft's paid version of Copilot. You can do a lot with the free version, by the way, but the paid version gives you that additional grounding capability that you wouldn't normally have. The other kind of major definition here that I want to make sure we all have an understanding of is non-deterministic behavior. So as we go through not only today's session, but future ones, you might write the exact same prompt that I do or Brian does, and you can see a drastically different result. That is by design. All AI tools have this non-deterministic behavior, which essentially means that there's going to be variety in the results that you get back, and you shouldn't count on the exact same results each time. All right, so Brian, let's talk a little bit about the fact that there are different AI tools obviously in the market. There's dozens of them now at this point, right?
Yeah, so ChatGPT, of course, is the godfather. It was the OG of all of our chat tools, and all the other ones were kind of based upon it. It's best for that multi-purpose tool where you can go through and decide that I want to ideate, I want to get creative here real quick. It has, of course, paid plans and free plans. Claude, the same way, free plans and paid plans there also. Claude is usually best at when you want to do some longer research. You've had some recent experience with Claude also. I'm curious about what your thoughts are in a second here also. And so if you have some more deeper research that you want to do, that's excellent for Claude. Now, little known, but not a little known fact, but a lot of people know the fact that Microsoft owns about 27%, 28% of ChatGPT, as well as they have invested as well into Claude. So both tools, that's why I did a plus sign there, they're taking the best parts of ChatGPT, the best parts of Claude, and integrating it into Microsoft Copilot. So it brings all those together. So no matter what the tool is, this session will be for you. However, Microsoft 365 ChatGPT brings ChatGPT and Claude into that. We'll show where both of those are actually in there. It's best at doing things like you mentioned, grounding.
Right.
We're bringing things into the meeting, my meeting notes, my presentation notes, my OneDrive and SharePoint stuff,
Right.
all into that as well. Also, Microsoft gives you some extra security in there. So you'll notice a little, Devin will show in a moment here, that little shield up top, which means your data is never used to train other customers. Or
It stays in your tenant.
it stays in your
right?
tenant, right? Where as of right now, in many cases, a lot of people will have an accountant, a financier, an HR person run out and go get a personal ChatGPT license, upload client data into it, and that data is not protected inside your tenant. So just a quick heads up on that. Now they do have plans where you can keep that data in the tenant, but not natively when you just get a personal plan.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, let's also talk more specifically about Copilot. So the big benefit that you mentioned there of Copilot is you get the benefits of both Claude and ChatGPT, and that Claude integration is becoming more and more seamless. That's coming.
Kind of love it, yeah.
Yeah. But even as you're just thinking with inside of Copilot space, let's focus on the first left two here that I have on my screen right now. But there's this kind of concept of crawl, walk, run when it comes to Copilot. There is a free version of Copilot that you have with your M365 license. It's called M365 Copilot Chat. I love the names. It's super confusing here. And then the paid version is just M365 Copilot.
Oh, we have one less word and 18 more dollars.
That's right.
Oh, $20.
Yeah. So the Copilot Chat one that you can do for free actually could do a lot. There's a lot of really cool things you can do. You'll even start to see it show up with inside of your Office products. So when you're in Excel, you're in Word, you'll see Copilot show up there. And there's some things you can do even for free with inside those tools. The paid version of Copilot, the big difference is what you just mentioned a moment ago, is the grounding. So the idea of grounding is that I can connect into my OneDrive, my SharePoint, my Outlook calendar, my Teams chats, all of that kind of interconnected collateral that I've created with inside of Microsoft's ecosystem is accessible and I can start to use with inside of Copilot.
So you can build agents in both of these, right?
Correct.
The only difference is the grounding.
Right.
So if I want to ground things to a SharePoint list, which version do I need here then?
Yeah, so if you want to connect into a SharePoint list, then you need to have the paid version of Copilot, the M365 Copilot. That points to Microsoft grounded material.
Okay.
If you wanted to create an agent for free, then you can point to public websites basically as your knowledge source.
So I could point to something that's externally available on my network. So maybe I want to build like an HR agent that helps guide students through their career scenarios.
Yeah.
That's all publicly aware data, so I can use a free version of
You
Copilot.
absolutely could, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So the step above both of these is Copilot Studio. So Copilot Studio, the difference here is much more complex agents. You can connect to even more different types of data sources. You can connect into non-Microsoft data sources in times. You can even do more Agentic AI, which we'll talk more about a little bit later. So if you've heard that phrase, Agentic AI, in Microsoft's ecosystem, you're talking about Copilot Studio, right?
Yeah, so this is licensed very differently also. this Copilot Studio is licensed based on consumption. So if you want to go through and say, I'm going to buy a pack of 25,000 messages that go back and forth potentially, you're using the Copilot Studio. You can deploy it to users inside of Office or Teams or M365 chat or even outside your organization also. So when you're using Copilot Studio, you also can publish this to external folks also. So if you want a AI engine on your website, Copilot Studio is the answer. And if you want to go more agentic, as of right now, Copilot Studio is the answer also.
Makes sense. All right, well, very good. Well, then let's go ahead and hop into our first hands-on demonstration.
Oh, we're getting hands-on.
We're getting hands-on already.
We're getting handsy.
We're getting handsy in a good way, in a good way. So we're going to hop into my screen here. We're going to do our first exploration of Copilot, and 365 Copilot, right?
And play along with us also.
Yeah, so I have the URL. There's a couple different ways you can get there. We are going to, I would ask if you are going to play along with us at home, use the web browser experience. There is a Copilot app that you can use as well. But the Copilot app, you may see a few things a little bit different.
It's a little behind.
You're a little behind, yeah. So what I tend to do is I like to go to the M365Copilot.com. I'm going to do that on my screen here as well. You'll notice I do mention the Edge browser. There's some added benefits to using Edge browser, although we're not going to really have too much time to talk about that today. But I'm going to go ahead and go to my browser, and just to show a little variety here, I'm going to use Chrome. Ooh.
Oh, no.
And then I'm going to have you go to M365Copilot.com, okay? Same thing that I had on my screen just a moment ago. Go to M365Copilot.com. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on that, and it should take me back to the screen that we're looking at right now. And to get started, I want to help you understand the navigation in this tool, because there's a lot going on around here when you get started with inside of Copilot. I'm going to give you a brief introduction, and then Brian's going to take over, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth, even beyond what we're going to see here to start off with. So as you launch open Copilot, there's some things that you will see if you're using the free version of Copilot versus the paid version of Copilot. So I will try to highlight those things as we go through our set of demonstrations here. The first thing that I'm going to highlight is up on the top of my screen. I see a web versus work mode up at the top of my screen here. You will only see this if you're running the paid version of Copilot. So my folks that are using the free version of Copilot, which is fine, you will not see that differentiation there. And the reason for that is because the grounding capability that we've mentioned a couple times now is only available within, or it's partially available here, but you're seeing it in primarily the work mode is where you'll interact with it. You can connect into some things in the web mode as well, but work mode is essentially look at the information, look at the data that I have stored within inside of my tenant, my Microsoft environment, and bring back information from there, versus web, where I can go look at things externally beyond just my tenant. All right, so that's the top thing I'll point out to you. A little bit below that, you'll also likely notice that you have some suggested prompts. Yours are likely different than mine. They will definitely be different than mine. But your suggested prompts are there just to give you some ideas of the types of things that you might want to ask Copilot to do. You can find that in the bottom middle. Right above that, you'll also find your message window here, or your window where you will write your prompts. Now, you can either type in prompts here. You could also verbally share prompts. I can talk to my computer and have it type in the information for me. And you can also add in things like files here as well. So depending on, yours may look slightly different than mine, but here I can add in files that I want to reference within inside of the prompts that I write. A few other things I'll briefly highlight over on the left-hand side of the screen where the navigation is. You can, of course, do things like create new chats. That's something that you'll do pretty frequently. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but the idea of a new chat is basically when you want to switch the context of the conversation you're having. So you're not going to just stay with inside of one chat window the whole time with inside of Copilot. Whenever you decide to have a different type of conversation, let's say, for example, I have one prompting window where I'm asking for recipes for various ingredients that I have, and then I want to switch to planning a vacation. Well, those are very distinctly different conversations, and in those cases, you will likely launch a new chat to be able to separate those conversations apart from each other. You can also use the search. The search will allow you to search any kind of collateral that you have within inside of your M365 existence. So it can search chat, it can search people, it can search Teams messages, that sort of thing. And we'll talk about a few of these other things as we get going, but let me hop a little bit lower down. A little bit lower down, you'll see we also have agents. I have a number of agents that are already here, so mine will likely look different than yours. I have a few agents like the researcher and analyst agent we'll talk about tomorrow. And then I have a few agents that I've actually built specifically for Pragmatic Works here, and we can create our own new agents here as well.
So, real quick question. We have a few questions here, but we are going to cover governance on the 17th. We have a question there from one of our individuals. By the way, we are answering live questions in the chat window. Out a lot of context here, but we are going to cover the governance side, and we're going to get much deeper into prompting here. How would I know if I'm on the free version or pay version based on what I'm seeing on the screen?
Yeah, so your first glance that you would probably tell is if you see the work versus web up here, that's probably your first indicator there to let you know that you're running the paid. If you see this that I'm pointing at right now, you are running the paid version of Copilot. If you don't see it, you're running the free version.
Okay, so you're always grounded in the web otherwise.
Right, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. All right, a few other things I'll kind of briefly highlight here is any conversations. We'll come back to notebooks. Brian's going to talk about those a little bit later. But you'll also see any conversations that you've had with Copilot appear over here on the left-hand side. So you can see I was doing a few examples of things over here from previous instances where I needed to use Copilot, including ones that pointed to specific people. I was actually testing out something. I saw someone posted that there's a new feature coming to Copilot where you can have it create inbox rules for you. Wasn't out for me yet, but it's coming. But I tried it out. But you can see a history of chats that you have, and you can even search the history of chats here if you're looking for a specific conversation that you had in the past and you want to revisit it. Other things I'll highlight here over on the top right-hand side, you can also notice the ability to create new chats using the button right here. So I can start a new chat. You can also start a temporary chat. Now, Brian, why would I do that?
All right, well, the reason I use this personally is temporary chats can be used to, like you do some heavy-duty prompting, and you want to gut check that for any kind of hallucinations. I'll typically use temporary chat. I do that. I'll copy the results out of the main chat into a temporary chat that has no context in anything we've done so far. And ChatGPT, Claude, all these chat products are just so eager to please you that it might lie to you sometimes also. So copying the results into a temporary chat and saying, could you validate this? It won't have any context. It'll just validate all the facts in that email or that message that you have and make sure it's valid.
So kind of an analogy for this could be this almost like your incognito mode in your browser, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, so the last thing I'll mention here as well before we do our first prompt is there's also this enterprise data protection shield that you see in the top right-hand corner. This is super important in that if you don't see it, then that means your information that you're putting into Copilot is being exposed to the web. So the way that you can make sure that never happens is to use your work email address. So if you're using your work email, that ensures that any information that you provide to Copilot will not leave your tenant. If you're using your personal email address, that's a different story. Then you are kind of opening yourself up to any information you plug in here being exposed to the training of Copilot's model. So that shield is super important, and it's one of the features that Copilot has that others have at higher pay tiers, I suppose I should say. We'll also talk about a few other things up here, but let's get to writing our first prompt. We've talked a little bit about the navigation. Let's go to the center of our screen here. And the first prompt that we're going to write together is I want to be able to write about, let's say, a challenge that we're having at our organization around cybersecurity, right? So
nobody has that problem here.
Nobody has that problem. Yeah, so I have a problem really, it's not specific to our organization. Everywhere has this problem where our employees, I want to ensure, are aware of how to handle phishing attempts. So phishing attempts meaning that someone is attempting to email our company and trying to get us to click something and signing in. They're impersonating someone else perhaps, but they're trying to get me to sign in to have me feed them my username and password. And so I want to be able to create some kind of educational session internally to be able to train my folks on how to detect or find those phishing attempts when they happen. So let's write a prompt together here to help us with that. So here's what I'd like to do. Help me, and by the way, we're going to write better prompts over time. This is just our first one, just to see the results. Help me create a short training for my employees to detect phishing attempts.
you know, Devin, I click on one phishing attack and that cost the company $20,000 in Apple gift cards. The guy seemed legit, okay? he was Nigerian prince, first of all, and he was legit.
Well,
so,
how could you go wrong if you know?
if I tell him $20,000 in Apple gift cards, I can get millions of dollars back, he said. So
Wow, I mean,
it's going to happen.
just be patient. Just
It's
be
going to
patient.
happen. Yep.
All right, so very basic prompt, and I'm intentionally showing you a basic prompt. I could write a much better one than this, but we're going to talk about how to improve just general prompt writing over time. But let's start with this one. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on this. Help me create a short training for employees to detect phishing attempts. All right, so here it's giving me a 5 to 7 minute length session, which, by the way, I never told it how long I wanted it to be. It's just made that guess, and that's part of the problem, right? I wasn't specific enough in my prompt that I wrote. But my goal is to teach people to spot and avoid common phishing attempts. First of all, we define what phishing is. What are the top 5 red flags? That's pretty good. I like that. Then we get into a quick real-world example. You can read this out loud. What employees should do: stop and flag or look for red flags. Don't click or open attachments. So very good.
Okay.
So pretty good. Not too bad. I like what it's come up with for me here. A pretty good 5-minute session. Now, we could write a much better prompt than this, but let's talk about what makes up a good prompt next. You think that's probably the right next step here?
Yeah, and while you're getting ready for that also, we had a few questions. I just want to make sure we show here real quick.
Yeah.
One was, I just flagged it and I accidentally clicked on it. There we go. So the first question was, hey, I got Business Premium, 365 Business Premium. Does it include the Copilot? And it absolutely includes the free version of Copilot.
Right.
Now, if you want the more extended stuff, that's where the paid license comes on top of your M365 license. So just a little gotcha there, a pro and con there, but you do get the core stuff for free. Speaking of that, we had, when you were showing the new chat, there's also an option right next to it that lets you select what version of ChatGPT or potentially Claude that you want to use. So the question was, is it using 5.2?
It is.
It is absolutely using 5.2. Yep. They came out with 5.2 the same day that it was very quick. As they were announcing it on stage, the next hour they had it inside of M365 chat. So yes, it is the same thing. You can expect sometimes different answers, but it depends on the context, right? It's like going up open to YouTube, right? Your YouTube session and my YouTube session are the same things, but I have so much more context on mine that's different than your context. We might see a little different things because
there are different recommendations for
exactly.
Yeah,
that's just because of the context, not because of the product, but they are the same thing. So those are 2 big questions. I have other ones here from this gentleman we'll come back to in a moment here.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, then let's talk about what makes up a good prompt. How do we make sure that the prompts that we're writing are going to return the results that we expect them to? So let's go back to my screen here for a moment and talk about the anatomy of a good prompt. And if I had to summarize this entire slide, I'd say it's all about the context, right? The more context that you can provide the prompts that you write, the better the results that you're going to see. Now, each of these different elements that you see on my screen, the ingredients that you see listed here, really all they are is additional context, but I like that it's stated here. The goal is that we want to generate 3 to 5 bullet points. Some additional context here is that we want to do this to prepare for a presentation on the importance of homework. All right. Mm-hmm. Then the source. Right. Then the source is that we want to focus on reliable information from the last 12 months. I think we could be even more specific there. What does reliable information mean? And then we set the expectations of what we want the output to be. Please use simple language so I can get up to speed quickly. I think I have written more prompts like that than anything else where I've said...
Treat me like a 5-year-old?
Yeah, explain this to me. Well, I was going to say 5th grader, but I've written so many prompts where it's like a complex topic. I don't need to be an expert on it, but explain it to me like I'm a 5th grader. And give me the basic knowledge, and that's been really helpful.
That's usually how I communicate with you also.
It is.
As I ask ChatGPT or Copilot, tell me, how can I communicate with my brother like a 5th grader?
Oh,
that's why I usually come and give you the wedgie usually.
You turned it back on me. All right, so just to give you kind of an example of how your prompts can improve, this is really showing the same prompt that's been improved on over time. So an okay prompt here is research the latest trends in artificial intelligence, which is improved upon by saying, research the latest trends for an upcoming conference. I need to have advanced, basically I need to understand the current advancements and applications of artificial intelligence. And then the even better prompt here is that we want to focus on reputable sources such as academic journals, industry reports, recent news articles, and summarize those key points. So the key idea here is just increasing the context is what really improves the results that you have here. So continuing, the more information you provide it, you'll see a lot of prompts that are written, a lot of example prompts that are written, like act as a marketing expert, or act as a paralegal, that kind of thing. And giving it that context can be helpful, where you tell it a role that you want it to act as.
Should we try this again?
Let's do it.
Okay, so this time I'm going to drive.
Okay.
So let's go and show our slide here real quick, or I'll show it on my screen. It's either way. So if you want to, you can pause this right now and try this example. Again, this is from an education sector kind of carnival we did all around the country. Right. So imagine that you are a school district and you want to increase the participation in dual enrollment. For those in our international audience, that basically means that where a student can go to school and college even though they're 16 years old, 15 years old, while they're in high school. So while they're in secondary school, they're also double dipping in the university as well. So just a quick heads up. So we want to increase that for a few reasons. So Devin, I'm hoping you can kind of help me write, based on what we learned there, a better prompt, and then we're going to refine it, and refine it until we get a really crisp product.
Sounds good.
So let me hop out here real quick, and I do see some chats from Chevy. I have not forgotten you, I promise. we're gonna answer that question because we have some good context coming up here as well. So Devin, I'm going to start by hitting new chat because it's, of course, not needed right now. We want to kind of start a brand new context.
Yeah.
So I'll hit new chat. And we mentioned before this whole auto button. This is where we can select under more what version of ChatGPT we want to use also. Just kind of come back here as well.
Makes sense.
So let's start the core, and I'm going to show how we can advance this through personalization and other ways as well. But can you help me write, like based on what you've taught me here?
Yeah,
what a good prompt might look like?
Let's say that we want to build me a dual enrollment brochure for kids that are seniors in high school at, let's be a little specific here. Let's say at Clay County, Florida.
Okay, in Clay County, Florida.
So that's our district here.
Yep, and my spelling is a little off, but we'll fix that. There we go. And anything else? There's not very much context there, right?
Yeah, let's start basic and see how we can improve it, right?
Okay, so I'll start here. Now these are called churns, right? We're going back and forth, kind of conversing with Copilot or ChatGPT. Every time we go back and forth, it takes time. Now you notice that in my case, we see this get quick answer. We're going to fix that in a moment here. It's trying to find the cheapest way to get me an answer out of this. And we'll show some tricks we can do in a moment to kind of make it think deeper about it. Now chances are, yours might already be done if you're playing along at home. Try your own prompt and see what you get out of this also. So in a few moments, we'll see this answer. All right, there it goes. It's putting things together right now, so it should be wrapping up right now. Now, while it does this, I want to show you a few more things that's happening behind the scenes while it does this. So we mentioned before context, right? It's memorizing context of as I write these, what's happening. So notice that mine might be taking a lot longer to run than Devin's right next to me. And there's some reasons why that is. So while this, look at all that. Wow, it's searching all these websites, building all this. Definitely a lot more than we see the average prompter here take. So to show you why that is, I'm going to hit the 3 dot in the top right. And I'm going to go to settings. Now, if you want to do this with me, feel free to pause me along the way. We may be behind you on questions, but it's all good.
Could you zoom in on that too?
Yeah, I sure will. So, I went a little too fast there. All right, so I'm going to hit the 3 dot up in the top right and then hit settings. Now, once I do that, we're going to click on personalization on the left side. Now, this personalization section has 2 parts, and we're going to show one part now and one part a little bit later here also. So we'll kind of explain both parts now, though. So first part is memories. This is where it starts to gather context that, hey, Devin, you might like to hear stuff a certain way, or you're working on this kind of project. It starts to gather that context, and every prompt gets filtered through that context. Okay, so you can also literally say memorize this, and it will memorize that context. But what I want to focus on first, though, is this custom instructions up in the top right. Now, when I select edit instructions, every time that I do a prompt, it will filter that through these custom instructions. Now I'm going to pause here for a second to give you a second to kind of steal my custom instructions, and I'll put those in the chat or in the description later also. But the first thing I like to do is get rid of those godforsaken M dashes. Every single chat product out there, Devin, loves those M dashes.
It does, yeah.
And you can always tell that you got an email sent to you from AI
Right.
when it has those stupid long dashes. So getting AI to by literally saying never use M dashes, 99.5% of the time, it will eliminate the M dash. You can also ask it, I mentioned before that AI is like that little puppy that wants so desperately to please you. And so it's going to do some funny things because of that. It wants to answer questions fast, and it wants to answer questions sometimes wrong because it wants to give you an answer. And if it doesn't know the answer, or doesn't have the right context, it'll just give you the answer that may be wrong. So telling it to feel free to ask you, refining questions is always a key as well. By doing that, it will ask you 1 or 2 questions at a time to zero in on the scope that you really want when you ask that question about building a marathon plan or building a plan for your next itinerary to a certain country. Are you bringing children? Do you care about this? Do you care about that? Those questions will help that along. I have ADHD, and one of the ways I solve that with AI is I can't look at a paragraph and I have to be able to skim it, right? So if you give me a whole bunch of context, a whole bunch of paragraph information, I will not read it. So putting things in bullets and in bold is a way that I best communicate. So let me kind of skim that information. Lastly, this one right here is an important one, to think deeply about the answer before it gives me the answer. You literally want to say this. If you care more about the quality of your answer, then put this sentence in here, put this bullet in here. If you care more about the speed of your answer, do not do this. So in ChatGPT 5, when they first released it, ChatGPT 5.0, excuse me, they built a router in place. So they you no longer say, I want the mini model or this model based on their needs. It will automatically route you based on your question to the correct model, at the cheapest model, to give you the answer the fastest. So by putting this answer in here, it's going to think deeper before it actually answers, take a lot longer to run, which is why my answer in the background is taking so long to run. So it might take, what might take you guys 10 seconds, might take me 45 seconds to a minute to get an answer. So go ahead.
I added one in mine recently too that I've found really helpful, at least in the short term. I don't know if I'll keep it there permanently, but I added in a new item into the instructions that says, I'm trying to become an expert prompt writer. After every response, give me an example of a better prompt that would get stronger results.
I freaking love that, for short term at least.
Yeah. So it's giving me, like, I write my silly little prompt that's not very great, and then it gives me a much more in-depth one that'll get me better results. It's been great so far.
I like that, yeah. And then so you'll see the results that I got out of this. So now we can see that I'm heavy bullets, right? So you can see that's why we're seeing the answers we're seeing here. And I didn't get any questions out of it, but that's okay. When you do want questions, key way that you may want to say is, like, interview me one question at a time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll dump 5 questions at you, and you're like, I just give up. Just do the thing.
Yeah.
So we can see here that it built an okay response, but how can I build some better context behind that is really our next piece, isn't it? So let's kind of hop back over here again. So this can say this is the content for the brochure, but it can actually make a PDF, and we can see down below, it's going to ask me, hey, do you want some follow-up here? Do you want a trifold or a one-pager? So I am getting a little bit extra context here. Like I say, I'll go ahead and say, give me a one-pager. And then while it's doing that, let's hop back over to my slides here while we can see it doing that. So a few things to keep in mind. While we did that, Devin kind of, guided me, put the goal in place? I think so. I think we said with the goal, well, did we say the goal?
I think we did an okay job. We definitely could have improved it, right?
We definitely could have. We did have some context.
Yep.
We did not have sources.
No.
And we did not have our expectation about using, this is targeting a parent, targeting a high schooler. We didn't really separate those out, right? Because is this high schooler going to give the brochure out?
Yeah.
So, if I go over here, let me go back there again. So kind of think about that when from your prompts. There we go. Sorry, from your prompts. Now there are ways to level up, but first of all, I think you've got something on your screen you want to show us also.
I do. Yeah, Jason. Let's flip to my screen here for just a hot moment. So I did something a little different. I just wanted to one-up you and make you look.
You gave me the prompt, dude.
Shame on you. Yeah. So I used a very similar prompt. It's not really so much the prompt that I used that got me the results that it did. It's that I used the create mode. So if you haven't seen create, when you're inside of Copilot, on the top left-hand side, we did new chat just a moment ago, and it produced a lot of text for us. But what I did a little differently was I used the create mode here, and that's great for creating images like you see here, where it's created this nice little trifold
That's pretty
brochure.
nice,
Yeah,
it even has the county colors in there too, which is nice.
It has the county colors. It even points to a local community college here, right here, that there's partnerships with, actually 2 different ones, that there's partnerships, there's a website link, there's a phone number, there's all kinds of stuff in here.
We've seen it do things like QR codes in there as well.
Yep.
We've seen it do all sorts of neat stuff inside of this, so that's pretty nice, even though you set me up for failure.
I did. I just wanted to one-up you.
One thing you can also do is it can do videos.
You
So you
can.
can do like short videos there as well. So it's taken the Sora stuff and brought it over into the M365 side of this also.
Yeah.
So let's try this again, but there's a few more things I want to kind of tweak this time. Let's go from prompting to power prompting now.
Okay.
All right, so we talked about our goals and all those and how we can build a better prompt. But there's also additional things you want to work on as well. The first thing we want to do, I mentioned that these chat products are like that eager puppy trying to please you. We want to tell that puppy, though, it's okay to be a skeptic. Have it be the old men in the rafters at the Muppet Show. We want it to kind of like make fun of us a little bit and like push back on us. If we don't give it permission to be a skeptic, to push back, it will just accept it. So for example, we did a prompt in a webinar series on the same channel where we had it build a business plan for a wagon ride from New York City to Seattle. And it said, what a great idea this is, Devin. And it built the budget plan, the marketing plan, it built all the customer interfaces, all ready to go, even built a website for us.
Oh, wow.
So it was ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Not mentioning it was a terrible idea, right? But it let us do it. So tell it to not be the yes man. Tell it to push back on you. The other thing we can do is build a company profile. So imagine you're Devin, in this case, building this profile for Clay County, Florida. Put things like, what are my colors that I should use? What are we good at? What are we bad at? What programs are in there? What do our products look like? Give me a SKU list of our products, and what are the scales of our pricing? So what you'll do is you'll ask it all these questions of what you want in the single file that has everything that you need to know to ground it, to know everything about your company.
Yeah.
Once you do that, tell it to produce a JSON file, JSON file. And that JSON file, you can just drag over and say, build a brochure based on X, Y, and Z, and it knows all that about you. So it's a nice way of grounding it to something very simple like that. You can do that for free as well. I'm going to jump down to the bottom here. Building a rubric is my favorite way of making this a better prompter. So what we're going to do in a second here is we're going to put up top here, build a rubric of the perfect brochure, and then now iterate over it over and over again until you have finally built the best brochure possible.
I like it.
So let's try this one more time by integrating these concepts into that prompt we did before. So I'm going to go back over to our window here, and I'm going to steal, let me just go ahead and say, let's steal our prompt. Oh, there's my brochure here. Let's see what it did. I bet you it did a terrible job.
Let's see. I'm optimistic.
All right, there we go.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty terrible.
That's pretty terrible.
Yeah,
Yep, that's what the crate mode's all about. All right, so let's go ahead and scroll up. Look at our prompt here. It was right here. And let's do the same. How about you do the same in the create mode there also? So I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. I'm going to zoom in so we can see where we're at now. All right, so what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to assume that, let me zoom out a little more than that. Excuse me. Devin's eyes are bad, but not that bad. There we go. All right, so I want to, first of all, I have parents that are skeptical about sending their children to dual enrollment. They want their child to have the high school experience, which basically means you get thrown in the locker and wedgies and all that. Yes. They are also worried about being educated with other adults. All right, so we'll start with our skeptic. Now, as I do that, of course, we can add some more context in here and all that. But up top now, I'm going to add another line up top here, and I'm going to say, build a rubric of the perfect campaign for dual enrollment success, something like that. All right, and I'm going to say, keep iterating through this until you hit a 10 out of 10 on your own grade. And I'll say, don't show me the iterations. Okay, so by doing that, by putting the skeptic, by putting the rubric in, if you did show it, you would see it build at 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, and then eventually a 10 out of 10 brochure, hopefully for you. So Devin's going to do it in Create. I'm going to do it here. I'll hit the Enter key, let it do its thing here. Okay, there it goes. Now this will take a bit longer in my case, but it has a context about what it built before also now.
Yeah.
So we've seen other students do this, and we get things like FAQs for a website, or why you don't want to do this, and that was basically a why not do it, but then twisted it to a why you should do it. So it immediately counters the objection of your customer as you're sending them an email. So our own sales team, for example, did this recently, and it said this customer will be hesitant about doing this because X, Y, and Z, because of budget, because of whatever, right? Or the economy, or whatever.
Right.
So if you kind of handle the objection right in the title of the email, right in the brochure, it's going to rock and roll. So there's my rubric right here about why clear outcomes, audience insights, yada 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 yada. That's why it's deciding how it's going to make it. This is how it's grading itself. And then down below, we now have our front panel here. Why families choose dual enrollment. In this case, they're talking about the cost savings here, and faster time to college, and all these kind of goodies here with citations, mind you, public citations. And will seniors get the high school experience? Yes. So we're handling that objection right in there. Concern, I don't want my seniors in class with adults. Choosing high school, so it kind of heads on right there instead of like going around it. How did your results look?
It's pretty beautiful. Let's flip to mine here for a moment. We can take a look at mine. So mine also handled the objections. Are you worried about dual enrollment? Miss out on high school fun? Classes with older students? Think again. We have solutions. So yeah, I created a pretty good, nice little threefold brochure. Yeah, I like it. People don't they look so happy, right? They look super happy to be able to get college credits. But yeah, very similar. I took a similar prompt to what you had, brought it here into Create. Creates a little bit more graphically appealing version of what you're doing.
That's incredible. I love it. So as you can see, building that skeptic in there, building the rubric in there, you can see it iterating over and over again if you chose to do that. So it's kind of a nice way to avoid that. Now we covered this before also about why we chose Copilot to do this. Of course, we're a Microsoft ecosystem here. So we chose Copilot mainly because our data is protected, right? So if I upload student information there, we do have a whole governance session on February 17th to our friend in the audience here. Now, let's go a little deeper here. How can we make this more of a thought partner also? So there's two things I'm going to show here. We covered the memories before. I want to go ahead and show you how you can integrate memories into your area, and then how we can also build these things called notebooks to do extra stuff here as well.
Nice.
So let's hop out again over here. And it does this sometimes where it kind of zooms out. Let me kind of get it to where there we go. Let's try that again. That's close enough, 80%, there we go. All right, so let's start here. I'm gonna hit a new chat here. I just wanna kind of show you one example that is really nice for the work mode. And, that is nice for the work mode, isn't it? All right, let me just refresh, there it goes. All right, so I'm gonna say, look at my style of email communication, and let me know how it rates, and so you can learn how to communicate on my behalf, something like that.
Okay, so because you did flip to work mode, this is something that you would need paid Copilot
and I'll
for,
put some context in here, some limiting factors. Use the last 30 days of my emails. All right, there we go. So it's going to review the last 30 days of my emails because I'm in work mode, bring that in and give me a clear communication about how I communicate, how I can be better at communicating maybe, because it may be challenging me here. And in a few seconds here, it will give me some insights. Now what we can do, if you want AI to sound like you instead of sounding like an agent, what we can do next is we can say, memorize this style when you communicate on my behalf. So we'll see, okay, it gives the overall 9.
An A, good job.
I got an A, all right, cool. And I'll go ahead and leave that on professional. Oh, wow, I'm surprised it calls me professional. La-di-da. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna scroll down because it's gonna cite emails that may be confidential. But what I can do now is I can say, memorize this style when communicating on my behalf. Through email drafts and, I don't know, Teams messages maybe. Okay, So it's still search, it's still doing some stuff here, so it goes and goes and goes and goes. We'll let that kind of do its thing. But the minute that turns off, this is going to enter into the memorization mode. So there it goes. I'll hit enter, and it's going to start, you'll see up top, it'll say in a moment, memorized. And then there we go. So right at the bottom here, we'll see.
Can you run it one more time? It looks like it's still sitting there.
Oh, yep, there we go. All right, here we go. So we'll see, memorize this in a moment. Now, what does that do? So if I go up here, and I'll skip the actual prompt here and go to settings, then back to personalization. So again, it was the 3-dot and settings, and back to that whole instruction section again. You'll see saved memories. And if I go to manage my saved memories, we'll see memories that Copilot has already thought of. When drafting emails or Teams messages, Brian Knight prefers a friendly, concise, yada, 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 yada. Brian's building a Copilot chat agent. I'm not doing that anymore, so I can go ahead and say, let's go ahead and delete that so it doesn't actually have that context. So this allows us to go through and bring that stuff into our Copilot. So let me go ahead and zoom out there. So that's one area. The other area we can use that kind of really improves this are the notebooks, excuse me. So this notebook we're about to see is from a presentation I did recently last week for a keynote address. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to go through and notice on the left side here, I have a link to my PowerPoints, a link to the government website here, and I also have some other Word docs in here as well. And I wanted to ask questions of, did this hit my audience over and over and over? I want AI to put the blinders on and only think about these 3 files and that website. So in this case, what I did, and you can see I already summarized that presentation here, but we also, as part of this, can hit the down arrow right here, and you can see custom instructions. So again, by doing this, it's going to bypass my other custom instructions and only use this custom instructions. Hey, I'm preparing a 30-minute length keynote. Look at these events to kind of fold those into the presentation. I want you to, at executive level, so don't get too technical, yada, 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 yada. So I use Copilot to build my Copilot instructions in this case.
Nice.
So structure it with a problem, possibility, playbook, proof, over and over and over again. So you'll see that in my presentation here. So eventually, all it thinks about is that when it solves my problem. So I can now ask it questions like, does my PowerPoint fit my target audience? Okay. So when I do that, it will only look at my target audience and campaign for my target audience. So where can we use this? Well, these are amazing. These notebooks are also called projects in ChatGPT and also in Claude. But we can see that, hey, what we do well, it already fits well. It's already executive level. It's for a keynote, so I hoping it will. It has clear relevance to Clay County, where you might want some tweaks at, okay, yada, yada, yada. So we can see the overall score here as we kind of go through. So it's being critical, right? It's pushing back on me, not just allowing me to do this. This deck is a little bit long for 30 minutes. I talk fast, so thank goodness. So what we can see here is this basically puts the blinders on and is a single focused AI engine only on solving a problem that we have here. To build these notebooks, just briefly here, I can go over to Notebooks on the left side, go to All Notebooks, and I will hit the New Notebook button right here, where I essentially name it, Customer Expansion, to Customer, whatever. I then can point to some PDFs, point to websites right here by hitting the little website link button. And after I do that, it will put the blinders on. So what that means is that mission becomes a single focused AI just to solve your problem. So imagine, and I can share that with my team as well. Right. So we have one that we share that has all of our company finances in it, a number of other things. But we can use that as a corporation to maybe expand your business. So this customer is focused on 2 of your products, but they're not buying this other product that you really want to expand on. So build campaigns and focuses only on this, on expansion. You may want to build a capital campaign and you load up all your potential donors into it and do some research on the donors for you behind the scenes and come back and tell you how you can actually appeal that to the donors. Building presentations, building a thought partner to where, we don't have an official board of directors.
Right.
So we use this to kind of build that board of directors for us. And then build an RFP response engine also for that. So lots of stuff we can do these notebooks for. They're amazing. They're my favorite feature though, Devin. And they're projects and other areas.
They are. I'm really digging them, and I use them quite a bit for, pass in all kinds of information that I have around sales quotas and things like that, and help me make goals for 2027 or 2026. So, the idea that I can put in multiple files, give it instructions that vary or differ from my personal instructions is really cool, where I can kind of build this like thought partner that I can work with and come up with ideas.
Absolutely. Really cool. So one more piece we want to make sure we bring up now, because a number of people have been bringing this up in the chat also. That's around Agentic AI. Now, this is a question that we see a lot of people ask. Like, maybe we ask the audience, like, how many people know about Agentic AI? We generally see maybe 10% of the hands go up. So Agentic AI is all about the motion of doing something. I want to take action on something. And this is where we're going to see the biggest gains in performance at your company or your organization. So taking AI to where it's not just chatting with you, where it's just like giving you data, but also doing the work for you, responding to emails, responding to campaigns, creating cases for you potentially. So, for example, I'm actually preparing a trip to Spain this summer with a few friends, and we're going to do something called the Camino de Santiago, and it's a pilgrimage for areas. And as part of that, first thing I did is I said, AI, build me a 5-day trip to Camino de Santiago. And it gave me a whole path, a whole bunch of hotels I can stay at, all the stuff I wanted to kind of build my trip. But what it didn't do was check to make sure the hotel was available, check to make sure that the trip was even feasible by a human, check to make sure that that wine tour you wanted to go to was actually still a thing. So it found all these great links, and we were letting AI do all the creative work as part of that, but it then led me to start opening up tabs and do all the work of the robot to make sure that that hotel was actually bookable. So Agentic AI flips that on its nose a little bit. Humans do the high value work and leave the robot work to the robots. So it will actually go out there and propose an agenda, and I can tweak it back and forth with it and use my human high value stuff to actually make a better agenda with it as a co-pilot. And then once I'm ready, I can actually book that trip with Agentic AI. So using like Expedia's AI engine or whatever, it can actually do things like actually put a reserve on that trip, make sure that there's actually that the flights are available, the train's available. All that stuff can be done with Agentic AI. Now, what that means to you now is you can use that to respond to customers' tier 1 questions they might have. Mm-hmm. So if somebody emails us and it's just our password reset potentially, we can automate those types of things to where a human doesn't have to do that. They can focus on the high value task.
Yeah, I think that's where some of you may have seen things like MCP come up. That's Model Context Protocol. That's where a lot of the agentic capabilities are coming to tools like Copilot and others, where you have the ability to tap into things like Expedia or things, different basically third-party platforms without having to be an expert in their API. That's where a lot of challenges come in when you're trying to like connect into third-party or custom sources, is there's an API to do it. But this idea of MCP or Model Context Protocol allows you to interact with them through AI agents without having to be an expert on APIs.
Absolutely, which takes us to a question from the audience now, which I thought was awesome timing here. Oh, and I just threw that question away. But somebody's question, I hit the folder button by accident. Somebody asked a question. Oh, here it is. All right, so building an agent here. What is the biggest difference between Copilot Studio and the regular agents in Copilot Studio Lite?
Yes.
And this is where the Agentic AI comes in also, right? So we talked about, I can now take that agent and publish it to the web. That's one biggest difference between Studio and regular Copilot. Mm-hmm. So one's internally focused, one could be externally focused. But we also, if we wanted to make it internally focused, Copilot Studio allows you to get underneath the covers and tweak things at a fine-tooth comb, and it can be agentic. So we can actually say, do the work, create the service center ticket, respond to the email, don't just give me the information. So if you want to do agentic right now, Copilot Studio is the right answer for you. It also can communicate with about 1,500 data sources, And things like ServiceNow for creation of tickets is a valid data source for that. So that was a great question in there. Let me go ahead and cover that one. We also had a question here from from Wendy. I will definitely add my preferences in there as far as my individual preferences into the description of the chat. So I'll add that a little bit after this. Wendy, if you refresh the screen in about 10 minutes after we're done, I'll go ahead and add my area to that description of this. And then we had a question here, does work mode automatically access everything in your tenant, or can it also be set up to do individual access, Devin?
Individual access to each app that you have. So that's something that on the administration side, your tenant admins can set up and be able to tweak a little bit, but kind of the default is it's pretty connected into anything that you have access to.
And this is why we find that a lot of organizations where they're like, oh crap, I didn't realize we had X, Y, and Z open.
Right.
So doing things like Purview, where you're tagging documents as confidential, organizational documents, is really critical from a governance side. And we do cover a lot of that on our session on the 17th also.
Yeah, I'll mention real briefly as we wrap up a couple things. One, we do have a session tomorrow. I have on my screen right now. So tomorrow we'll be doing a session on a researcher and the analyst agent. So those are both paid Copilot features. So I want to make sure I highlight that ahead of time if you're thinking about joining us tomorrow. And then additionally, we'll have some sessions on Thursday. 2 sessions on Thursday are happening. We got a lot going on Thursday. So on Thursday, we're going to be doing another session as part of the Copilot Carnival. But in addition to that, there is also a Learn with the Nerds, which is also on Copilot or Agentic AI, which Andrew and Nate will be doing. This one will be at 11 o'clock. So if you want to have kind of a whole afternoon with us, we'll have this at 11 o'clock. We'll be back on at 1 o'clock. But this one's going to be on vibe coding or vibe programming with Power Platform with Andrew and Nate.
Let's get that little definition behind that. What is vibe programming?
Yeah, so it's a very kind of
freaking amazing.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
So you might have even done this yourself and not even realize it's called vibe programming or vibe coding. But vibe coding is essentially maybe you're not an expert in a technology, but you use an AI tool to be able to help code for you.
Yeah, this is pretty awesome, and it builds some beautiful applications. And it is frustrating as all get out because it's only as good as your prompt.
Yes.
So some of the stuff you learned today, make sure using things like rubrics and combine it with what Andrew shows you on Thursday is a big critical key. Like build a rubric with the perfect screen that does X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I did that for creation for nonprofit for creation of an application for like a Burger King ordering menu kind of thing. So lots of good stuff we have. These are all going to be hands-on sessions. So make sure you have your laptop with you when you watch these if you can. And of course, we do speak fast, so you can always pause us if you wish as well. Well, great. So I think we've answered the questions I saw in the chat window here. I think that's awesome. Yeah, so I think we're ready to go ahead and wrap up then, Devin.
Yeah,
Take us home.
If you think of more questions, we'll be back on tomorrow, same time tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern. Join us then. Again, tomorrow will be all about researcher and analyst agents. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Have a great day. Bye.